Thank you. The Sex Discrimination Amendment Prohibiting All Sexual Harassment Bill 2021 is critically important. So many women and men around Australia are saying enough is enough today and are marching for justice. It is baffling that these amendments have not already been implemented, and even more so that the government did not take up my invitation some weeks ago to present it themselves. Kate Jenkins, the Sex Discrimination Commissioner, summed it up nicely in her foreword to the Respect at Work report tabled last year. Sexual harassment is not a women's issue. It is a societal issue which every Australian and every Australian workplace can contribute to addressing. Workplace sexual harassment is not inevitable. It is not acceptable. It is preventable. Sexual harassment is not illegal in all circumstances. Many are not adequately protected, not personally liable for sexual harassment, and in particular, MPs, members of parliaments in this place, nor judges. In 2008, the Australian Human Rights Commission submitted that the Act should be clarified so statutory appointees, judges and members of parliament were adequately protected and personally liable. The Prime Minister, following the inquiry into the former High Court Justice Hayden, called those allegations very disturbing and very concerning. And shockingly, much of what Dyson Hayden did was not illegal under the current legislation due to the nature of the employment arrangement between judges and their associates. This year, we have heard of allegations of sexual harassment and sexual assault of very grave nature occurring in this place. While some of those instances were assaults and are therefore covered under criminal law, it's important to recognise the enabling conditions that can contribute to assault occurring. Sexual harassment must be prohibited in all circumstances. We need to talk about it, we need laws that support victims, and we need legislation to amend, and we need to make sure that the legislation in place is good enough to protect all in their workplaces. The Respect at Work report delivered by the Australian Human Rights Commission to the government in March 2020, a year ago, had 55 recommendations. 3 have been partially implemented. The foreword to that report states that Australia was once a leader in prohibiting sexual harassment. However, over 35 years on, the rate of change has been disappointingly slow. Australia now lags behind other countries in preventing and responding to sexual harassment. The Australian Human Rights Commission survey in 2018 found that 1 in 3 people experienced sexual harassment at work in the last 5 years. Those statistics should be shocking. It also found that the current legal and regulatory system is simply no longer fit for purpose. The amendments that present today go some way to addressing the gaps in advance of broader reform. Based on data from the Australian Institute for Health and Welfare, in the last 12 months, 1.6 million people have been allegedly sexually harassed, the majority of which were not formally reported. 201,000 people were allegedly sexually assaulted, and the police were notified of only 23,000 of those assaults, which is just over 10% of cases. And approximately 5,000 people were convicted of sexual assault. This has dramatic impact on the health and well-being of Australians and the Australian population, and it even translates into economic impact. So to give the government a fact that maybe speaks to its focus, Deloitte found that workplace sexual harassment cost the Australian economy $3.5 billion annually, including approximately $2.6 billion in lost productivity. So we need legislative reform to urgently address this issue. The allegations we've heard this year from Ms Higgins and others of their harassment and even assault here in Parliament House reinforces the need for a change to the legislation. Grace Tame, the Australian of the Year, has told us that the most powerful thing we can do for victims is to talk about the incidents of harassment, grooming and assault. It is empowering and it encourages others to come forward to tell their story. It helps to prevent further incidents of abuse and it reduces the stigma on victims, shifting the shame to the perpetrators where it rightly belongs. So creating legislation to make sure that MPs and judges are held to the same standard as others in their workplace is important. And to the members in this place, it is our job. To the government, adopt this bill and demonstrate our commitment to integrity and reform. The standard you walk past is the standard you accept. If you fail to adopt this amendment, you are endorsing sexual harassment in our workplace. You are saying MPs should not be held to the same standard as others. This amendment has been recommended in various forms by the Law Council, the Human Rights Commission, the Senate Committee on Legal and Constitutional Affairs since 2008. The people of Australia are tired of words. They want action. It has been on the to-do list for too long. It's time to make this change now. In the spirit of the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we need to tackle inequality in the law with one piece of legislation at a time. So what better place to start than the Sex Discrimination Act? And I pass on the remainder of my time to the member for Indi.